Hey everyone. Alright, so I wanted to talk about Magnum Force. Now, I am a huge fan of the Dirty Harry movies, or the Harry Callahan movies, whichever you prefer. And I am something of a Clint Eastwood guy. This and the Sergio Leone trilogy. But if I had to pick, I would go with the Harry movies each time. Now, Magnum Force is my favourite installment of that series. I love the first one. The first three, Dirty Harry, Magnum Force, and The Enforcer, I think are the best of the Harry movies. But Magnum Force is my favourite. Admittedly, it is a close thing between Magnum Force and Dirty Harry, the original movie, but there is something about Magnum Force, which is so awesome. It's got a great storyline, with the rogue cops who have just taken the law into their own hands, going out and executing criminals who thought they'd got away with it. It's interesting when you watch it because in Dirty Harry, Clint Eastwood does much the same thing. It's similar sort of thing, At the end, he just decides, I'm going to have to put the police process to one side and go handle this guy Scorpio myself. I've got to put a stop to him. We've used police procedure before. Look where it's gotten us. I'm going to have to just go and sort this, handle this myself. But there's a big difference when you think about it between what he does and what these cops in Magnum Force are doing. These guys are just executioners flat out. Whereas in Dirty Harry, what happens, of course, Scorpio, Clint Eastwood has followed police procedure time and again, Well, he even tried to pay the ransom money at one point, to save the 12-year-old, 13, 14-year-old girl, whichever it is. That doesn't work, and that brings Harry to boiling point, as well it should. But what really tips the scales is what Scorpio does at the end when he kidnaps the school bus full of kids. Clint Eastwood finally realises, right, I've got to do something about this now. I've just got to go myself, Well, you see, he throws his badge away, his star away at the end. He's not going as a police officer. He's going as a guy who's going to do the right thing and put a stop to what's going on. And you admire him for that. And you completely agree with him. You realise this guy is doing the right thing. He's doing what he has to do. The cops in this movie, however, have gone rogue and have just, executioners. The Death Squad, for lack of a better name. It's a fine line, but what they're doing is very different. Because these criminals, they've done what they've done, and obviously through technicalities, politics, they've gotten away with it when they shouldn't have done, but they have. But there's a slight difference. These rogue cops, they're not going to save the day. They're going to carry out assassinations, essentially. So that's the distinction. I think I've read, on like discussion boards on Internet Movie Database, isn't what Harry does in this movie when he stands up to these rogue cops and takes them on, isn't it somewhat hypocritical on his part? No, it isn't. It isn't. But it's a really great plot in this, and it's like your biggest fear. Well, you don't know how deep this runs. How many cops have gone rogue, and how many cops have joined in as part of this death squad. You don't know. Yeah, it's quite frightening when you think of it, but fortunately we have Harry Callahan there to save the day, again, do the right thing, and it's really good, it's great, how he works it all out. Of course, this is the longest of the Harry movies, 2 hours 5 minutes, I think it is. I've heard it criticised as being overlong. I don't think it is. It's got a good pace, I think, and the way it shows you him investigating what's going on and how he gradually works out. You have that his suspicions arise. He becomes suspicious of David Soul's character, Davis, and when they're at the shooting tournament, Callahan uses David Soul's gun at one point. Do you mind if I give that a try? And he deliberately fires a shot into one of the into part of the scenery, one of the walls, and comes back and digs it out later on, so he can compare the bullet that he's took from Davis's gun to bullets that were found at these crime scenes. It's really clever. Yeah, I really like the story of this one. And one thing when I watch the Harry Callahan movies, as great as the main storyline is, it's always fun to see the little side quests, for lack of a better term, that happen. The other jobs that Clint Eastwood gets called out to, like early in the first part, or early on in the film, when Clint Eastwood goes to the airport and he gets called, there's a plane being taken hostage. He goes out pretending to be the pilot. Excuse me, Captain, this might be something of a dumb question, but do you know how to fly? No, never had a lesson. I tell you what, if Executive Decision or Non-Stop had Harry Callahan as the main character in those movies would be really short filmed. He resolves the whole situation in 10 minutes flat. Admittedly, all the guys holding up the plane all get shot and killed, but hey, it's their own fault. There's a lot to be said for Callahan's method of policing, yeah. But like I say, that's one of my favourite parts of Magnum Force, on the plane. That's class. And obviously the shootout in the store where the store gets hauled up, that's great. But yeah, that's something that I always love in the Callahan movies. As good as the main storyline might be, the little side quests that he gets called out to or gets involved with are really entertaining. I think of all of his partners who he's been paired with, his partner in the first one was great, but his partner in this one, Magnum Force, the black guy, I can't remember the character's name, but I think out of all the partners he's had, he is my favourite partner that he has in this one. He does a really good job. Yeah, so again, that's another thing which makes this movie stand out to me. I really like the ending to this movie, when he's being chased by the cops on the bike, and he gets his gun, he loses his gun, so obviously he's got to, like I say, he has a fist fight, well, it's not really a fist fight, it's pretty much a one-sided beatdown that Callahan dishes out on one of the guys. He drives head on in his car right into one of the other guys on his motorbike. That doesn't end well. Car versus motorbike, you know which one's going to win. It's pretty devastating, the impact. And then of course Callahan steals one of the motorbikes at the end of the towards the end of the chase, and you've got it when it's one-on-one. You've got the motorbike chase across the buildings, or across the shipyard, I should say. It's really good. It's got a really good ending, this one, and I've got to say, this one, Magnum Force and Dirty Harry, the first one, props to Clint Eastwood for doing all his own stunts. The motorbike chase in this, Clint Eastwood does all that himself. When they go to when they have that shootout earlier on, when they go to do this bust and it all goes wrong, where Clint Eastwood is on the bonnet of the car, all that himself. In the first one, diving on top of the school bus and hanging on for dear life while Scorpio's trying to shake him off, that was all him And you know, when he goes up to talk the jumper down early on in the first film, that again, all these stunts Clint Eastwood done himself, and props to him for doing that, because it's really impressive. But yeah, this movie Magnum Force is awesome. Obviously, it's gloriously 70s, 1973 this came out. Like I say, great storyline, great villains. Lalo Schifrin's music score to this one, that awesome opening title theme that plays over the opening credits, is fantastic. You know, Lalo Schifrin always did great music scores, you know, like Enter the Dragon, Escape to Athena. But this one, Magnum Force, is a brilliant music score. And yeah, it all fits together really well. You know, yeah, it's again, as sequels go, this is a fantastic sequel. You know, like this is up there with like Lethal Weapon 2, Beverly Hills Cop 2, you know, Die Hard with a Vengeance, you know, Highlander 3, The Exorcist 3, really great sequels. Well, maybe Highlander 3 and Exorcist 3 aren't the best examples, you know, the good sequels, not as good as the originals, but again, it's a different context, you know. Highlander 3 and Exorcist 3 were making up for a really terrible second instalment in the series, whereas this, you know, you talk about great second instalments, Magnum Force is definitely one to talk about. You know, Rush Hour 2, why not? Yeah, really great movie. I think when it comes to Clint Eastwood movies, yeah, Magnum Force, as well as being my favourite Harry movie, it is my favourite Clint Eastwood movie. It's brilliant. And again, great acting involved. You know, Clint Eastwood himself, the guy who plays his partner. David Soul is a really great villain in this. Hal Holbrook is great. Well, Hal Holbrook's great in everything, but he's really great here. Yeah, a lot of love for this movie. It was really great because I got it as part of the Dirty Harry box set. The only Dirty Harry movie I'd seen before that was the first one, so getting this box set and watching all these movies was great. But yeah, Magnum Force just stood out to me from the first time I watched it. It was just brilliant. So yeah, again, there's nothing really more I can say about Magnum Force, but it's awesome. Yeah, and that pretty with that, I think I should just leave it there. Awesome movie. And that pretty much brings this to a close. So I hope you've enjoyed this review. You know, I hope you've agreed with some of the points that I've made. You know, I'm sure that you know, if you're watching this, you'll have seen this movie by now. If you haven't, you really should. You're missing out. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this review. Thanks for sticking with me, and I hope you agree with the points that I've made. And thank you all for watching, and I shall see you all next time. Thanks everyone. Bye.